In our real world, our thoughts remain in our heads. A person thinks, I don't like you. Another person looks docile and content, happy even, because they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know that you're saying in your head, I don't like you. But what we speak out loud remains in the world and cannot be undone. That person who thought I don't like you, if that person said, I don't like you, now this person isn't going to look happy and content. They're going to look heartbroken. In fiction, we can spend as long as we want in a character's thoughts, but when they speak, these thoughts become permanent in the world. It has power. Dialogue enables an action step for a character. It enables the audience to learn more about an imaginary world. It can propel a narrative forward. Here are two things you can use to propel your story forward with dialogue. 1. Think of the dramatic action of each line of dialogue you write. Good dialogue should move a character in motion. Actors and directors will break down lines of dialogue into components of dramatic action. Dramatic action refers to the motivation of each line. So when you're looking at your dialogue, look at each line of dialogue and think of an active verb of what the character is doing with that line of dialogue. Don't think of a passive verb like to be. Think of an active verb, an action, to represent what they are doing with the line. For instance, this line of dialogue here, we have Jane and John having a conversation. Each line could be broken down with these verbs. In line 1 from Jane, she could be saying that line to jab, to question, to control. Line 2, to defend, to attack, to repudiate. And then in line 3, to attack, or to hurt. As a writer, revise dialogue as if you were an actor performing the dialogue. Write down the verbs for each line and take away any line that doesn't deserve a useful verb, that's not propelling a story forward. The second thing to consider when writing dialogue is you want to make sure your dialogue has good flow. Dialogue, a conversation, should have good flow. Dialogue contains the prefix die because it is between two characters. When two characters speak, the reader should understand the connection between these lines of dialogues. Dialogue should flow well. Each line of dialogue has to answer or has to connect with the previous line of dialogue or the action happening in context. For instance, if Jane says, I want a divorce, and John responds with, Blu-rays are better than DVDs, this dialogue may not have good flow. John's line doesn't connect to what Jane is saying. You could have good flow if contextualized appropriately. If you have contextualized John as someone who never listens to his wife and always has his mind on things other than his relationship, then maybe this line would make sense. But without that context, it's gonna seem jarring to a reader because it has bad flow. It would probably have better flow if it read like this. I want a divorce. What? After 20 years? I mean, we're just throwing those years away. Though each line a character says of dialogue needs to connect with either a previous line, it needs to be an active step towards something, it needs to flow well within the passage or within context. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Cab Library's YouTube channel or follow us on Facebook.